Many of you wanted to include both your crude birth rates and your births within a single chart. This is fine, although as you can tell, when there's not a lot of variation in crude birth rates and they are very small compared to actual number of births, you end up with a graph that doesn't really tell you a whole lot. There are a few ways to play with this to try to make it a little more useful without going so far as to create a dual axis graph. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this graph slightly larger. So I'm going to grab and pull there. It's a little bit bigger. Still doesn't give me much down here, but it just kind of is what it is. Taller I make it, the more likely we are to see the variation here in crude birth rate. Another thing that I could do here that, if nothing else, helps clarify that these are two very different things going on in this graph is to make one of them not be a line, make them be a bar instead of a line. And generally speaking, that's better for whatever is behind. So if the two things were overlapping, you'd have the line go in front of the bar. In this case, since they're so far apart from each other, it doesn't matter. But turning one of these lines into a bar is very straightforward. You click on the line that you want to change into something else. You right click or the equivalent of a right click on a Mac, and then you're going to change series chart type. So what that is you're changing the chart type just for this series. The series refers to the data element you're doing here. And in this case, I'm going to turn that into bars, or as Excel says, columns. And OK. And then now we've got those little bars. And this helps in a few ways, in my opinion. For one thing, this will print better in black and white. That red and blue, the defaults don't show up all that differently. And it's very apparent which is which now. And I think it's slightly easier to see, now that you've kind of got some volume going on here, the difference between the two. So that is how you change a series chart type in order to get more than one thing going here. It's even more obvious and even more interesting if you were to be comparing two things that were very similar to each other. So if you were wanting to, so that things were closer together in a sense, but it's still useful even in a graph like this one.